Everybody, welcome to session 4. This will be a diagnostic approach. This week we read about the principle of test selections. So test scores are best used in a diagnostic approach. What we're trying to do is we're trying to confirm or disconfirm ideas we get from watching the children in our classroom and listening to them read and watching them read in groups and having classroom-based assessments. So some of these tests that we use are standardized tests, criterion reference tests, norm reference tests, reading survey tests, and general achievement tests. Now let's go through each one of these so we can get a better understanding of what they are. The reading survey test and the general achievement tests, they're not really supposed to be used as a diagnostic instrument. They are group tests, and they're very easy to administer. And really what they're used is to be able to judge children, not just in your classroom, but across state lines and across federal lines. So we tend not to use them too often when we're trying to do a diagnostic approach to reading. Standardized tests are a test that we use that is exactly the same. And I know I brought this up before. Standardized tests want to make sure that every child takes it exactly the same way. They're tested on exactly the same material in exactly the same sort of circumstance. Another type of test is a norm reference test. The idea of these tests is to give teachers an idea of how a school or a class or a district or a state give a national average as a whole. If they're, they can use this a lot of times to say things like a child is behind, but that doesn't mean anything with these tests. A lot of times you can use, if you're a second, learning English as a second language, you're gonna look behind. If you are learning to read later than the others, you're going to come up lower on this. So norm reference tests also not be the best way to look at a child in terms of a diagnostic approach, but they are a tool that you'll start to see in your classroom. A criterion reference tests are looking at the specific skills and knowledge at a certain grade level. A lot of times they'll use these tests to try to make a group, an ability group. Because they're giving you information about a category of skills and knowledge. You can use these to confirm and disconfirm classroom-based assessments. They're not the best in terms of planning instructions, but you can look into broad categories with this test. Now, we've gone through the tests. So the next thing we want to look at is teaching with what we've learned, teaching with a diagnostic mindset. Some of the practices and beliefs of teachers who have demonstrated the highest reading achievement in their levels. We see 8 characteristics. One of the things that we see is integration of skills with high quality reading and writing experiences. A high, not just teaching phonics on this one, or we're not just teaching the letter A. We're teaching comprehension. We're teaching fluency. So you have a lot of goals in one lesson. Using scaffolding. So if yesterday we learned all about the oat sound, today we're going to read about goats. If we learned about certain sight words, we're going to integrate them into the reading. And what's nice about the scaffolding is children feel successful because they have already done the goals previously. And when they bring the goals in to base more learning on top of it, it can make them feel very successful. Encouraging children, we'll go back to that, encouraging students with regulation. So a child looks at a page and immediately comes to you, I can't read this. And you've taught some strategies to the child. This is the time when you really help them to understand that they can solve their own problems and really give them the sense of independence independent skills. And really, we start doing that with scaffolding as well, because they feel confident when they come in with that. So we really want them to start working on their own, solving their own problems. The integration of reading and writing activities. So if your children are in the block corner, that's a perfect time to write a note to the rest of the children saying, "Mine, don't knock it down." And having other children read that note and be able to know that they shouldn't knock that building down. They shouldn't take blocks for themselves. So this is something that's integrated into what you do for the entire classroom time. High expectations of students. So if we come in and we say, "Oh, Johnny, I know you can't read this. Let's try to find a simpler book." You're not helping Johnny. Johnny needs to feel that he can do it. Johnny needs to feel that he can reach for a higher level book, and allowing him to do it and giving him the skills so that he has strategies if he cannot solve the problems on his own. And you can see each one of these starts to build on the last. Number 7, I can't stress this enough, is masterful classroom management. What that means is if you have children running around and screaming, you're not teaching anything. Children need to feel safe in the space. They need to know the limits, and they need to have time to quietly think and read and work through problems. They can't do that if your classroom is all over the place. That doesn't mean having children sitting in rows and not participating and being, you have to know where children are developmentally, and you have to make those goals really appropriate. But you have to create a space where children can learn. The last one is an awareness of their practices and goals underlining them. Children need to know why you're doing what you're doing. They need to know what steps you're going to take to do it. So some very successful teachers will start out letting them know, I hope by the end of the time that we do this reading, you will understand the oat sound. This will be something you will walk away and you will know. And I'm going to do lots of ways to teach this to you. So bringing them in on their own education and making them a part of the process. Now, there are 4 teacher roles in a diagnostic approach to assessing, learning, and teaching reading. So role 1 is the planner. Number 2 is explicit teaching. Number 3 is organizing and managing. And number 4 is self-evaluator. So we'll take a closer look. So role 1 is using a diagnostic approach to base instruction on strengths and needs. So role 1 is making teachers, helping them to make choices about instruction. Trying to figure out through diagnostics what the children's needs are, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and using that to tailor the program to them. So if you know that Sally has a very hard time when she reads a book with very bright pictures and she gets distracted, you might want to choose a book where the pictures are on the opposite side of the page. If you know that a child jumps ahead in the sentence, this would be the time where you have your finger underneath the page. So you really need to know the strengths and weaknesses of your child and address them when you're planning your instruction. Number 2 is explicit teaching. So we've got 5 steps for this. Objectives are well stated and activities are designed to accomplish these objectives. So you're not going to start teaching about the oat sound and have lots of at words in them. You want to make sure that you're really following a well-stated design and the children know, number 2, what you're doing, what's the objectives. Giving them an opportunity to learn, not just giving them the answers, not just lecturing. I know I'm lecturing now on that, but you also have the opportunity, especially in your discussion boards, to talk to each other and learn and take time to review the material. Students need exactly the same things in your class. Teachers assess and give feedback. So if I know that you thought you did a great job on this book, but you skipped every other word, I'm going to let you know that so you're aware of what the problems are. And teachers arrange ways to assess and adjust to success and failures at reaching objectives. So if I was planning on keeping you on a level 2 basal reader and you jumped ahead to a level 5, I'm going to let you do that, and I'm going to let you know that you did that. If you're not able to do it, I might say, let's hold back. We have a few more books in this group, and I'd really like to see you to be successful at this before we start reaching for the next next group of books. Role 3, organizer and manager. And this really gets back to classroom management. One of the examples that they gave in the chapter was where a teacher had a small group activity going on. The teacher also had individualized reading instruction going on, and he had a bunch of other kids writing stories. In order to do that, you really have to have good classroom management skills. If you're hectic and you're yelling at one group and running to the next, you're really not accomplishing your goals. So classroom management skills are absolutely important to being a successful teacher and teaching reading, or any other subject for that matter, especially with early childhood. The last is being a self-evaluator. If you teach a lesson and no one understands it, is it the children's fault? You need to go back and you need to think about it. Not every lesson is going to be a winner, and not every lesson is going to be something that's going to accomplish the goals. And while it can be painful, really taking that time to evaluate your lesson is really key to successful literacy teaching and every other type of teaching. So I hope this gave you a nice overview on session 4, and I look forward to seeing what you'll be doing this week. Thank you so much, and I'm going to exit out.